A country that has been closed off to the outside for much of its history, China, is now inviting nations of the world here to showcase their cultures. Hi, I'm Vicki Liviakis in China, and this is Shanghai World Expo. At the World Expo, countries build architectural wonders on a massive chunk of prime Shanghai real estate. Inside, bold visions of the future, a future with better cities and better lives for those who live in them. Nations try to make their best impression on tens of millions of Chinese eager for contact with the outside world. And China's biggest city is forever changed and left with a new iconic landmark. Watch as history is made at the Shanghai World Expo. Think of the World Expo as the Olympics, but without the sports. Nations gather in a gesture of goodwill to share their cultures.
National participants in World Expositions have an excellent opportunity to showcase their cultures, their industry, their vision of the future for their people, and to by and large stand tall among nations and present themselves well.
So far, there have been 84 World Expos, sometimes known as World's Fairs. Each expo must have a theme. London hosted the world's first expo in 1851. Its theme was the great exhibition of the works of industries of all nations. Some World's Fair themes marked historic anniversaries, like 100 years of American independence at the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition of 1876. Chicago's 1893 exposition commemorated the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the New World. San Francisco held the 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition to celebrate the completion of the Panama Canal and to demonstrate its recovery from the 1906 earthquake. But beyond themes, world fairs became better known as events where people could experience new technology that could change the human experience. The 1893 exposition in Chicago presented electricity as the future's primary power source. In 1904, at the St. Louis Expo, X-ray technology was unveiled that revolutionized the medical industry. And at the New York Expo in 1939, the world saw the first images broadcast on television. Flash forward almost 150 years after the first World Expo to 2010, the biggest World Expo in history is taking place in Shanghai, China. The pavilion site is over 2 square miles. More than 200 nations and corporations have built pavilions, many of them architectural works of art. When it comes to that theme of better city, better life, different countries have different interpretations of what it means to go green. Romania here, their spin is a green apple. Among the European pavilions, if you make it to the top of the Swiss pavilion, you can ride the chairlift. Off in the distance there, that is the Spanish pavilion, and the skin of it is made of all recycled material. Over there, that's the Polish pavilion, and if it looks like paper cutting, well, it is, because that's the national folk art. Some of the pavilions are pretty obvious, others are a bit more mysterious. Take, for instance, the Singapore Pavilion. If you're still stumped, think music box, only a really big music box. Some of the ideas behind pavilion architecture are more abstract than others. The Israeli pavilion is made up of 2 materials, glass and stone, and it's meant to evoke 2 hands clasping together. You see it? If you've ever blown on a dandelion and watched all the seeds scatter, well, that's the general idea behind the UK pavilion, only they've taken it to the extreme. China has spent $58 billion to host the event. It's moved heaven and earth to improve infrastructure. The expo will last 6 months, from May to October 2010. In that time, more than 70 million people will walk through the gates. More than 95% of those people will be Chinese, most of whom have never left China. For them, it will be their first direct contact with the cultures of the world.
At an expo, the thing that people really seem to come away with, especially children, is sort of ideas and hope and the ideas of progress and their impressions of other countries.
The Expo's host city, Shanghai, is a rapidly expanding urban monster, barely recognizable to those who lived here 20 years ago. With that expansion have come monster problems, pollution, traffic, and other challenges to the quality of life. It's fitting, then, that the theme of the Shanghai World Expo is Better City, Better Life, because that's just what most of the people who live here want. Looking back at Shanghai's history, it seems like a city destined to host the World Expo. Shanghai has always been the outside world's gateway into China. Located at the mouth of the Yangtze River, it was a prime location for Western ships to dock and trade as early as the mid-1800s. Shanghai became the place where Western traders came to make massive fortunes. Those Western businessmen also made a permanent impact on Shanghai's skyline. If you look at those buildings behind me, you'd think we were in London, Paris, or Vienna, and that's the general idea. The first Westerners who came to Shanghai brought along their culture and their architectural style with them. This row of old world Western architecture is Shanghai's Bund District, the city's most famous area. Peter Hibbert is a historian who has lived in Shanghai for 24 years. He's an expert on the Bund District. Peter, for someone who has never seen the Bund, what is the Bund?
Okay, well, the Bund was basically a muddy foreshore till the British came in the 1840s and built it up into the finest promenade in Asia. And when largely rich Americans started turning up in the 1920s on their cruise liners, it was their first taste of China. It was China's front door. And they'd see Europe and they'd see great buildings, but they wouldn't see any temples or pagodas inside.
The Bund became Shanghai's business center.
You know, I think it's a place that in the 1850s, there was one British trader here, also dealt in property, and he said, "I'm here to make as much money as quickly as possible and get out."
But during the Communist Revolution, the Bund's go-go days ended. The next several decades, the buildings were allowed to decay and fell into disrepair. It wasn't until the economic reforms of the 1990s that Shanghai's crown jewels revealed themselves again.
And what was the most amazing thing to see was when they sandblasted 30 years of dust off of those buildings on the riverfront, because they were transformed into what you see now. I'm sure you filmed this. These beautiful, gleaming, and they have wonderful architectural detail, the stone carvings, the tile work, the metal work, everything. It's just absolutely extraordinary. And from that moment, everything started to change.
The Bund became the most prestigious part of the city, with high-end businesses staking out turf here. And when Shanghai won the bid to host the World Expo, the city put much of the Bund under wraps for nearly 3 years. They spent $70 million to restore the famed district.
There's been 2 years or so of renovations on the Bund. Basically, there's too much traffic, too confusing, and not kind on human eyes. And so there's been a massive and very successful project to reduce the number of vehicles, a number of lanes of traffic, and install a really nice promenade for people to enjoy.
What a difference a year makes. When I was here last, that building in back of me, you couldn't even tell what it was. It was shrouded in netting. And now, here it is, the Peace Hotel, restored along with the Bund to its former glory. It wasn't enough to restore the buildings. The city also wanted to restore some quality of life. Right now, we're in Shanghai's historic Bund District. Over there, some 4 lanes of traffic. Now, if it looks busy now, imagine just about a year ago, all this was 11 lanes of extremely congested traffic. It has since been replaced by this lovely public walkway. So you ask yourself, where did all that traffic go? Right underneath. The city spent 2 years building this double-decker 45-foot diameter tunnel beneath the walkway. 3 lanes on top, 3 lanes down below. With the tunnel complete, throngs of people can enjoy a nice afternoon walk where 7 lanes of traffic once were. They can also get a more tranquil appreciation of the dichotomy of Shanghai's history, old and new. To really experience the contrast between old Shanghai and new, all you have to do is stand right here along the banks of the river. On one side is Shanghai's past, and then across the Huangpu River, Shanghai's future. The Shanghai World Expo Better City, Better Life theme has already become a self-fulfilling prophecy, at least in the Bund District. At the Expo, it's clear that the predominant idea of how we get a better city is through green technology. Green is everywhere at the World Expo, especially on pavilion rooftops.
Quite a few of the pavilions here have rooftop gardens, but those are flat. And as you can see, India's here is a dome. Even so, they managed to create an elaborate rooftop garden complete with Indian spices and herbs. Here at the New Zealand Pavilion, it is just as lively on the outside as it is on the inside. As you make your way into the pavilion, you can walk along this beautiful rooftop garden with native New Zealand plants, and then down below, we're all watching a Maori warrior dance.
As you walk from pavilion to pavilion, you'll see many of them are made of recycled materials.
If you're not walking, another great way to get around the expo is by electric cart or electric bus. They are clean, they are quiet. In fact, so quiet, you don't even hear them coming.
In fact, nearly all of the vehicles at the expo are electric, everything from buses to shuttle cars. With this kind of near vehicular silence, you kind of wish the future was here now.